Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show, and this is the episode that you've all been waiting for because Dave Ramsey finally has taken us behind the scenes to see some of his properties throughout Nashville because most people don't realize that he owns quite a lot of real estate. And today with George, he's taking us through a few of his properties as soon as you hit the like button and subscribe because it helps out the channel tremendously. And now, let's begin.
I'm in a Tesla. I am taking my life in my own hands. What's that smell, George? What's that smell? I smell smoke. I smell smoke, George.
Yeah, you've done, skydiving. You've been shot at, apparently. But this, you think, is the riskiest thing you've done.
This is pretty serious cutting-edge X Games right here.
Yeah, for whatever reason, Dave Ramsey hates Teslas. I think he's made himself very apparent that he doesn't like them. He's not in favor of them. I don't know why, because I love Tesla. I've been obsessed with Tesla. It's like being able to drive an iPhone, which is something, it's a weird experience. You actually have to get behind the wheel of a Tesla to fully understand the appeal. I think a lot of people who don't like Teslas have never driven a Tesla. They're just like, no, I don't like the electric cars because they suck and I want to. But once you drive it, I don't see how anybody could not like it. It's a smooth ride. It's quiet. I was about to say it's eco-friendly. I mean, well, people could disagree about that, but it's cool to be able to plug it in and never visit a gas station.
Obviously, we have to get coffee, and I thought, what better place to go than your new barn?
Yeah, Dalhousie Farms. Yeah.
Yes, so I thought you have a fancy coffee machine in there that apparently makes excellent coffee.
You know what? We do.
And I thought, we'll share the profits because that's free coffee.
It's funny, they're driving around all this location, and you could see Dave Ramsey's buildings in the background. It is mind-blowing how much real estate that he owns and how much square footage he has. He has empty space throughout his buildings that he is like building himself into. Like he built too much and then he's just expanding into it. It is wild. But you know what? They're doing extremely well.
We're on the cusp of the launch of my new book, Breaking Free from Broke. And thank you. And
there we go.
You wrote the foreword to it, and I really appreciate that.
You did a great job of unpacking the ripoffs and really destroying the mythology, the different lies that people believe about money, particularly money products.
So they're talking about credit cards. He's talking money products, he's getting credit cards. Now, I read George Camel's book. It was honestly a really good book. He does talk a lot about his distaste for credit cards, and there's a whole chapter, I think it's like chapter 3, is all about the psychology of credit card companies. And some of it I did find quite interesting is the psychology that credit cards use to make it seem like you're getting rewarded for using a credit card. Like, don't you notice when you get those little mailers that say, congratulations, you've been approved to get this credit card. Oh, and they treat it like it's this huge celebration, like this is, noteworthy that all of a sudden you're able to take out loans and, spend money on credit. But I find that interesting that they purposely use a lot of verbiage like you get approved, congratulations, towards a product that you would never really think of as that big of a deal, that you get to sign up for a credit card and put money on something that you pay back later. I think credit cards could be fantastic when you use them appropriately and you pay them off in full. George's whole argument is that credit card companies do everything they can to get you to spend as much money as possible on the card and then hope that you're not going to pay it off in full and then you're going to have to pay a whole bunch of money in interest. So that's what they're doing. As long as you could beat them to that game and just pay it off in full and don't spend any extra money, I don't see the issue with it. But George does have a lot of very convincing arguments that people can spend more money on the credit card because it's not as fungible. They don't really notice the money is taken from their account. So there could be something towards that.
We've had a bunch of things under construction.
The event center.
The event center, the barn, everything. And we've been building on the campus for like 6 or 7 consecutive years.
Wow.
So it's the first year that we've not had money going into concrete and bricks. Yeah.
So my understanding is that Dave Ramsey just owns all of this land around Ramsey headquarters, and then he's just building. He's plowing a lot of the extra cash that he makes from Ramsey Solutions back into building these huge commercial centers of real estate. Like there's one on top of a hill that overlooks a lot of like the valley where they are in Tennessee, and it's gorgeous. I mean, you walk into the place, and by the way, I bet you didn't know this, but during certain hours, you're able to walk into Ramsey Solutions and watch them film the episodes live. I had no idea this was even a thing, but they had this whole like waiting area there. They got a little cafe in there, and you could watch them film all of the episodes. And then every now and then, Dave Ramsey will come out, like shake people's hands and take pictures. It's such a welcoming environment. And when I was there were maybe like 30 people just sitting watching. I had no idea. So this is something, I don't know if they ever advertise this, but it's like a little hidden gem that if you're a Dave Ramsey fan and you want to sit in and listen, you could go and do that.
First time in our life, we're not doing any residential. We're doing only commercial.
Talk about the difference between residential versus commercial as far as, you know, what's involved.
Commercial is a lot less hassle, tenant-wise. There's not hardly any drama comparatively.
Dude, imagine Dave Ramsey is your landlord, that you're paying rent every month and you're giving it to Dave Ramsey. I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool, but at the same point, his name is not on title. You're probably renting from an LLC that's owned by a trust that is managed by an attorney, and you have no idea technically who you're renting to. It could be anybody. You're never going to know it's Dave Ramsey. But for those 10 to 20 people, they are technically Dave Ramsey's tenants. I think that would be quite interesting. It makes sense, though, the way he's kind of selling this, moving it over to commercial. I bet where he's at in his life, he just doesn't want the headache. He doesn't want the liability. And for him, he's going to make maybe a lower return in commercial, but it's going to be completely hands-off.
The wealth simply comes from putting money in there and leaving it alone and let it grow.
There was a funny article I read that was saying the people who had the best returns were dead people because the investments just sat there and they didn't mess with it, and they had the highest returns. I thought that was such a brilliant analogy.
Yeah, it's very true. Dead people make amazing investors because they're not going to panic sell when something goes down, and they're not going to FOMO into something when it goes up in price. There's even something called the Magellan Fund. It was managed by Peter Lynch, and it was this fund that outperformed the S&P 500 by leagues. I mean, we're talking over a period of like 2 decades. It outperformed by a wide margin. But the average investor in that fund actually lost money, which is absurd. You would think that if something was gaining like 15% year-over-year returns, it would be impossible to lose money. But the issue is that just as much as it went up, it went down. And they found that most investors bought in after it had already gone up a ton in price, and then they sold when all of a sudden they lost money.
You're still doing the Ramsey show every day.
Every day.
Is that the last thing you think you'll keep hanging on to long after
probably.
You're in the business?
The good news is the ratings are great when I'm not there. So
I know a lot of people love it when Dave Ramsey's on camera, and from what I've noticed, his episodes, when he's physically present, do get more views on average, but he's able to churn out like 5 times more content because he doesn't need to physically be there. So I think overall, he's getting more views without being on camera, but when he is on camera, those specific episodes do better. So something to consider.
I've got a huge flag collection from working with the military over the years.
Oh, they'll
flags,
give you
flags that have
gifts?
flown over this or flown over that. They send them to us. You know, we're teaching Financial Peace University in there, so we had all these flags and these neat. They're battalion flags and things like that that the people sent us. And so we framed all those and we put the flag collection.
That would be huge. Just imagine teaching personal finance to people in the military, having a government contract to teach all the people in the military how to properly handle their finances. That's massive. I'm also curious what this is used for. I couldn't tell if this were like a personal spot, but looking at this, it seems more of like an office almost, where he's gonna host events and have people over and maybe do some teaching here. I can't quite tell what the purpose of this is.
Thanks for giving us a little inside peek. This is what the people want, is behind the scenes.
Well, this is about as behind the scenes as it gets.
They get to
me
see the
making
front of the
coffee and
scenes.
me in the barn. There you go.
We made it.
I'd love to see more of this though. Why do we just get to see a living room that looks like an office? Maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he justified it as like, hey, I'm going to build this cool barn, but like, let's use it a bit as an office in the beginning, get some tax write-offs, and then maybe in the future I can move in there. I don't know. It seems kind of sterile.
On Iced Coffee Hour with Graham Stephan, they asked you if you would borrow $1 billion at 0% interest, if you could guarantee the spread of 5% or something in treasury bonds, and you said emphatically and very quickly, no.
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 Graham's fun.
Why is it so easy for you to turn down opportunities involving leverage?
He got so much hate on this, by the way. Look through some of the comments. Everyone went off on him. I even remember I went on Twitter and there was like a clip of this that just went insanely viral and everyone was calling him out. It was like, I can't believe this. If he just put it in treasuries at 5%, think of all the money he would have and he'd have all this money left over. It's guaranteed. I think objectively, like mathematically, you look at this and you have to think, you would have to take it because it would be like a bad financial choice not to take the free money. But you know what? Dave Ramsey is so stuck on his principles, he's not going to budge on that. If he ever admits to doing that, like his whole business would decline because he would be going against everything that he teaches. But here's what he has to say about it.
It would hurt my soul to just have that amount of money sitting out there that I owed.
That's exactly what it is. The borrower is slave to the lender. I'm not going to be locked in to where someone else is calling the shots in our life ever again. I've been there. And it wasn't fun.
Yeah, but you know what? When you're borrowing at 0%, all of a sudden, the lender is the slave to the borrower. The borrower is the one who has all the leverage in that case.
Were there obstacles to building in cash and running a business with cash?
It hasn't been in a while because gross revenues are about $300 million. So if we need to do a $3 million attempt on something, which we did a while back and it didn't work, we lost the $3 million.
It's amazing how open he is right now about his revenue. He, a few years ago, never would have alluded to how much money you're making. And now it seems like he's a lot more open about it. He's a lot more transparent. I'm wondering the reason why. I think a lot of people underestimated how much money Dave Ramsey makes. I mean, $300 million in revenue, where a lot of that revenue is coming from online programs with very little overhead. His overhead is really just employee salaries. All the real estate he owns outright in cash. It's paying 1,000 people every single month. That still leaves him with a ton of money left over. I mean, it's mind-boggling how much money Dave Ramsey makes. And he's one of those people who, for the longest time, just flew under the radar. You would have no idea. I'd be curious, by the way, who makes more money on paper, Dave Ramsey or Grant Cardone? My bet is probably Dave Ramsey. When you really look at it, at the end of the day, I know Grant has a lot of revenue coming in, and he can depreciate a lot of the properties. But Ramsey, I think, is just, he's got that sleeper build going on. You have no idea, but he's probably raking it in.
Was it or is it a goal to become a billionaire?
I mean, it just depends on how you would value the Ramsey Solutions company, what kind of valuation you'd place on it. If you placed a reasonable value, we're probably over that. But it's not relevant because none of it's for sale.
So the way he's looking at it is that if you have an online business that's making $300 million of revenue, someone could say, I'll pay you 3x revenues, which would mean his business is valued at $900 million. Combine that with all the assets he has, and then theoretically on paper, he could already be a billionaire if you count that. So that's how he's valuing this. Someone might even pay, 4x revenue for something like this, assuming that he could step out and someone else could be in. But you know what? I think a lot of this value is tied to Dave. And I think without Dave, it wouldn't have the premium that it gets today. That's the reality.
Dave, before we go, I thought it would be fun if we gave away
Yes.
a signed copy from you and I.
Oh, there you go.
This will be the only copy Dave ever signs of this book.
Oh,
potentially.
Really?
I don't know.
Potentially.
Maybe. So I brought the
until
Sharpie.
somebody walks in and asks me to sign one.
Look how he saved that. Until someone walks in and has me sign one, he's like, this is definitely not the only book I'm ever signing. So let me know what you guys think of this down below in the comments section. As always, feel free to add me on Instagram, subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget, you know what? I also got some free stocks down below in the description. It's a paid affiliate link, so I'll get a commission if you sign up, but you will get some free stocks that could be worth all the way up to a few $1,000. So the link to that is down below in the description. Enjoy. Thank you so much, and until next time.